So, for everybody who knows me knows that I have a heart for the drug addict. I have a heart for the alcoholic because that's my story. I was a hopeless, dying, dope fiend, alcoholic who's seen no future, who felt like the way that I was living in 2005 would be the way that I would die. Obviously, God intervened in my life, opened some doors, put me amongst some wonderful people, and this began my process or my journey in recovery. But I just want to share a couple downfalls over the last 10 years that I experienced, and I pray that this experience will steer you away from destruction. It'll steer you away from optional suffering. Listen, there's suffering, there's pain. These things are part of the process of growing up. But there is a such thing as optional suffering, and that's usually when we continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And some of y'all listening know what I'm talking about, because when you do something you know you shouldn't be doing, but you keep doing it long enough to be convinced that what you're doing is godly, and then when it doesn't work out, you ask God where He's at. Or you've had that experience, you relapsed, you crawled back in to the program saying, I don't know what I need to do differently because I was doing everything I was supposed to do. That's one of the things that I get a lot of the times when it comes to helping drug addicts, that people are saying they're doing everything that they're supposed to do. Listen, I am one who believes that relapse is not a requirement. One does not have to relapse in order to get to where God wants them to be. I don't believe that. I do believe there are people who relapse, and I believe that we need to teach relapse as a stepping stone. We don't need to teach relapse as something that eliminates a person from what they've been taught, what they've learned, some of their experiences. That doesn't eliminate all those things. And a lot of times we say, well, you don't know nothing, you never really knew God. And I'm not going to go there, because our place is to edify, is to build up, is to pull out the best in people. And some of the people that I've met along this journey in recovery are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. They've been some of the greatest friends, some of the people who have loved me at my worst and loved me at my best, who have believed in me. So, I believe in pulling the best out of these people. And so I just sort of hope that what I'm about to share sort of helps you, because listen, the 12 steps is a wonderful tool. It is a wonderful tool. It's just a horrible God. And for many years, I made the 12 steps my God. I ran to them to fix me. I ran to them for a good feeling. And that's not what they were ever intended to do. The 12 steps, each step taken properly, will deliver you to the next. You will begin to experience true freedom. You will begin to experience peace as you've never known it before. And if you're in recovery right now, and you've taken the steps, but you are not experiencing those, but you are helping a lot of people, you are running to a lot of meetings, and you are measuring your success by what you are doing, you have missed the whole point. Because the truth is if you look back on your life, you got to where you're at because of God. It's never been based on what you could do. It's always been based on how you could get out of the way so God could do for you what you could not do for yourself. But I believe the enemy is brilliant. And I believe as we grow spiritually, the devil, the enemy, uses our success as a building block to reestablish itself, to get its foot in the door. And oftentimes we become deceived. Oftentimes we exchange the truth for a lie. And we begin to do some things that is out of our character. This is normally when people come up to us and say, hey, bro, I see you doing some things that you shouldn't be doing. And either one or two ways we're going to respond to this. We're going to get mad at that person and shut them out of our life, or we're going to humble ourselves, receive the correction. We're going to get back to the basics, level our pride, search ourselves, confess our shortcomings, which this process requires for successful consummation, and we're going to begin at that moment to experience freedom. Well, let me tell you what I did. I experienced true freedom. I experienced walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe, with God Himself. I was free as a bird, freer than I've ever been in my life. Well, as I began to find success, I began to see some pride. Well, matter of fact, I didn't see the pride. Others seen the pride in me. Well, when I would be approached about these things, I would shut these people out of my life because I didn't want to take a look, because I felt they were hating on me. And so I would close the door to all people who was trying to help me and love me. And so what I began to do is I began to look for security in relationships and begin to look for security in my gift in helping people. And so what I began to do is I began to live by sight. I was no longer living by faith. Therefore, I wasn't getting the results of peace, freedom, happiness, joyousness. All these things I was not experiencing. I was only experiencing these things when I was writing a 4-step, or when I was running to a meeting, or when I was helping people. And somewhere along the lines, I became very blind. And though I was sober, I had no peace. Though I'd been sober for years, I didn't have any true joy in my life. And so what I realized today, looking back, is God was sending angels in my life to bring me back down to size, to point me back to the truth, so that I could begin a new phase of development. I had grew. I got to a place where there was a storm, where there was some hardship, where there was some complacency, which was necessary. But when I found myself over a 4-year stretch, finding myself doing the same thing over and over again, I clearly knew this was not what God intended for my life. So I wasted many of years running to the steps to feel better about what I was doing, instead of running to the steps, examining my heart and seeing what it was God wanted me to stop doing, because He placed this in my life to be a lesson so that it could teach me to become and look more like Him, because He had a greater blessing ahead of me. But I would take the lesson, mistake it for a lifetime blessing, and I would take my focus off Him and put it on it. And so when you come in to show me this, because I had unhealthily put my dependence on a person, I didn't want to let go of them, because I'd started finding my security in them. I'd started finding this in them. I started only being okay and feeling good when they were around. And so when you came in and told me this isn't what I need to be doing, I couldn't comprehend it, because truthfully, I wouldn't have never said it with my mouth, but my actions showed that I had started making this my God. And so I just pray right now, if this is you, that maybe this video will wake you up and say, look, God never brought you into sobriety, and He never rescued you and delivered you and saved you from a life of hell for you to have to be dependent upon another person, for your emotions to have to be satisfied based on what another person does. He has never brought you also into a place of being sober and serene so that you could hurt people and have to use people. That is not God's will for your life. And I pray today that if you're doing what I was doing, that you would go back to the step work, that you would examine your heart, and that you would be willing to stop doing what it is that's getting in the way of your future. Learn the lesson from what you're doing. Allow it to build your character, because I guarantee you that what you think is the best right now holds nothing to what God has for you. And many of days I sold myself way short thinking I knew what was best for me, when God was over here saying that if He would get over Himself long enough, I could blow His mind. And I'm going to tell you, that's been my experience. That has been my experience. Listen, you don't have to run to 100 meetings a week, and you don't have to help 1 million people a week to stay sober. That is not a requirement. Listen, from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. From the heart, the feet move. What I think, I do. And so what we're looking to do is we're looking to find such a position with God so these remarkable things that the book promised will follow. We want to position our heart and get our minds right so that we get to do these things, so that our motives are right. So I'm not having to run to a meeting to get. I can run to a meeting to give. You know, my house can be clean. I can be trusting God, which places me in positions to help people as God sees fit for me to help people. You know, it doesn't have to just be drug addicts anymore when I'm fitting myself daily. It can be anybody I come in contact with. Man, that's so good. Listen, I just really hope this encouraged you. I really hope it brought some hope in your life to know that, you know, you can overcome anything. You know, there's nothing you're going through right now that is unfixable. And you wouldn't be listening to this message right now if God didn't have a greater plan. He is ministering to you personally right now. And He is telling you, listen, stop holding on to what I'm trying to get out of your life, because what I have ahead of you is going to blow your mind. If you would let go of the old and trust me, I will bring you into the new, and it will be better than you could ever imagine. Man, that's so good. And He wants that for you. And I pray today that you would just step back and that you would really just analyze the situation, your situation. See where you're trusting yourself and other people, and be willing to let that go and put your trust back in God and the provision He has on your life, because there are many people ahead of you that need you, and God's going to use you to help them. And I pray today that this has woke you up and this has encouraged you to stop settling and start allowing God to put His best in your life.